Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to do something a little different. Uh, Fishing's been a little tough here lately. It's been pretty warm. It needs to get cool for the fishing to get better. But I'm going to do something a little different today. Had a few people ask me, they want to know like what kind of knots I tie to tie my jigs on, and to tie two jigs on, what kind of knots do I use, and I'm going to kind of just go over everything that I use on a daily basis today. Um, let's see. First, we'll start off with the gear. Uh, this right here, I mean, I'm sure most of you know by now. I use pretty much exclusively now sniper rods. The rods are very good quality. And I'm gonna link everything that I go over today. I'm gonna link everything in the description. That way you know like where I get it and where you can get it. But the rod, this is a 5'6". This is for mainly for like fishing the marina. I know a lot of you a lot of you have seen those videos. This is definitely a more of a marina rod. As you can see, it's got a pretty soft tip, which is good. You don't want too soft of a rod, because when you set the hook, there's not going to be enough forcing to set the hook really, and you don't want too stiff of a rod because you're going to have too much of a force when you set the hook, and it might rip the jig out of the fish's mouth. So you just kind of want something in between, something that's not too stiff but not too light. And this rod right here is perfect. And this rod also has a 10-inch mark, which here in Texas the fish have to be 10 inches long to keep them. So this right here saves me from having to carry a measure around. I just measure it from here to here and know that they're a keeper or not. But yeah, these sniper rods are by far some of the best rods out there on the market. They're custom, so you can customize them however you like, and they get the job done. And let's go with the reel. This is a Shimano Sedona 2000 series. Personally, I like the 1000 or the 1500. I got this because I was planning on using it in the creek a lot, and I needed a bigger reel to pick up more line when I'm casting across the creek and when I'm reeling in fish. So I got this one for that purpose, and the creeks ended up flooding last year, so I never got to really fish it. But this year I'm planning on doing more of that. But this, I would definitely say if you're gonna get a reel, I would definitely try to get a little smaller. But I love Shimano reels by far. They're by far my favorite reels. They're smooth. They're durable. I beat the reels up pretty bad. I'm using them a lot, and they give me no problems at all. And they're always real smooth to reel. And that's the rod and the reel setup that I use. I use this pretty much for everything. There's really not too many applications that I wouldn't use this for. And then the line, let's see, put this right here. The line is very important. This is like the knockoff Bass Pro Mr. Crappie brand. Mr. Crappie line is very good. It's probably better than this. This is 6 pound. And as you can see, it's high vis. It's yellow or green. Sorry. This is very, 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 very important, because I don't know if y'all saw the last video I posted. There was one fish in particular that I mentioned that I never felt the fish bite at all. I simply saw my line go slack. This is all you'll see on at least 50% of your fish, given certain times of year. The line will just do this, and that means a fish has picked it up. The jig's like this, and the fish just comes up and grabs it and pushes it up, and then that's when the line goes slack. But that's the reason for having this high vis line. You want to definitely have high vis line, or you're going to miss at least half the bites that you otherwise would catch with this line. And 6 pound is really all you need. You can go higher. 10 would be the most I would use. Crappie are not line shy, but I feel like the higher up you go, it's harder to stay in contact with your jig, and it's harder to fish it. So I like 6 pound. 4 pound is a little too light, just because the fish like to get in brush and all kinds of nooks and crannies. So I definitely like 6. That way I can rip the fish up out of there a little better than 4. And 2, if you get a good fish and you try to swing it over with 4 pound tish, you might break your line. So this is definitely the line to go with. This kind of line, not this brand. But that's the line that I use. I use this line for everything. There's not one single place or area or time of year that I fish that I don't use this line. And now we'll go into jigs, which there are so many different kinds of jigs. And as far as jigs go, any jig will catch fish. Just get one that you think looks good and you have confidence in, maybe, and just try that. I mean, every jig will catch fish. It's all about how you present it and your confidence. So I'm just going to show you a couple types of profiles. There's these right here. This is a Bass Pro Beaver. It's kind of like a creature jig. These work very good. There's all different kinds of styles of jigs, and like I said, all of them will catch fish. This is a good one. It's black and chartreuse, which is a good color. And again, color is kind of the same thing. Color doesn't really make a difference. If they're gonna bite a certain jig, they'll bite it. They're not gonna say that that's not the right color and not bite it. I mean, they'll if they're there and they're hungry, they'll bite any jig. And these are the more like minnow profile jigs. This is white and sharp, and these are Bobby Garland. These work good. And like I said, I'll link all the jigs in here and all the equipment that I show in the description. But this is a good style. I will say that that definitely the profile of the jig has more to do with getting bites versus color. Let's say sometimes the fish are on little bait and they want a little jig, and sometimes they want a bigger jig, and sometimes they want a short and fat jig. It just kind of depends on what kind of bait is in the area. And this is another Bobby Garland minnow type bait. This is I forget which, I think it's like ice or something like that. It's a clear with a little holographic glitter in it. And let's see. I didn't get one with me, but I didn't bring one with me, but I'll use these other ones. And as far as, there's 2 main groups to jigs. There's plastics like this, and then there are hair jigs like this, or feather jigs. And they each serve their purpose, I think. In the summertime, plastics are pretty much what I use. The fish bite these very good. You can change colors real quick, and for the most part, they'll bite them pretty good. Now, in the winter, when the water gets colder, I like to use more feather jigs, because the feather jigs have a little more action. And in the wintertime, that little more of action will get the fish to bite, versus just the plastic, which doesn't move nearly as good in the water. So the feather jigs by far I use more in the winter, or when the water's colder, early spring, late fall. These right here work very good. And again, too, like I said, the color doesn't really matter. I mean, these are just random colors. This is blue and purple and green. This is dark green and sharp and blue. This is like a amberish red with the green and brown. This is blue and green, dark green. Again, the colors really don't matter, but feather jigs work good in the colder months, and I definitely recommend getting some of these as well as the plastics. If you're just starting out, if you're just starting out, I would definitely just stick with plastics, because plastics are cheaper and they're just a lot easier to use, versus having to cut and retie every time you want to change the color with this. And these are a lot more expensive. And these are a Thermocline lure. These are more plastics. I'm just going to show you since I got them here. The Thermocline lure tadpole in purple and sharp. These work good. And then if you're looking for tubes, I definitely highly recommend Rocky Top tubes, which is what I have here. These are the most durable solid body tubes on the market. You cannot beat these tubes. They're durable, they catch fish, and they have very good and vibrant colors. And this is just a salt and pepper with chartreuse. The tips were dipped in chartreuse, and these work good. Here's another rocky top. This is like a peach with a orangish clear tail. These work very good as well. And again, this is just kind of giving you an idea of the basic gear to get if you're just starting out. Just kind of giving you an idea of what to do. Just kind of giving you a guideline of where to go and what direction to go and things of that sort. And as far as jig heads, this is the jig head I use. I didn't take I should have cut the tag end off, but oh well, I didn't. And then this is an 1/8 ounce. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, but the hook is a sickle hook, and it's a different shape than you would get at like Bass Pro or Academy. I definitely recommend these hooks over any other hook, and the reason for that is, one, they're sharper, and two, they hook fish, and the fish stay hooked a lot better than just basic U-shaped hooks, or C-shaped hooks, I should say. But these work a lot better. And you can get these, again, I'll link it all down there, but you can get these in bulk a lot cheaper than you can get the Bass Pro or Academy brand jig heads. You can get these in like 100 pack for like $9, a lot cheaper than, and I think they work better. I really think they work a lot better than those kind of jigs. And the two main weights that I use, like I said, this is an 1/8 ounce. This and a 1/16 ounce, which I do not have, unfortunately. These right here are 1/16 ounce, a little smaller, and they have the same sickle hook, just a different brand. But a 1/16 ounce, I use a 1/16 ounce most of the time when I'm fishing the slips at the marina, or like if I'm fishing like shallower than like 15 foot, and the wind's not blowing too bad. As far as the 1/8 ounce, now if the wind's blowing a little harder, like 15, 20 or so, then I use an 1/8 ounce. Or if I'm fishing in water that's 15 foot or deeper. Even if the wind's not blowing, I like to use a little heavier jig once you get out past 15, 20 foot. It's just the 1/16 ounce takes so long to fall down to the bottom. But again, this is just kind of experiment. Some days the fish want a 1/16 ounce, and the reason for that is because the jig falls a lot slower. The jig falls a lot slower than this 1/8 ounce would. And like I said, a lot of times the fish will just pick it up. Well, if the jig's falling slower, it gives them more time to see it and more time to pick it up. If the jig just does this real quick, it doesn't give them very much time to react. So sometimes they will want a 1/16 ounce, and other times it doesn't matter. You can just use an 1/8 ounce, drop right down to them, and jig them up that way. It just really depends. Sometimes they're picky, sometimes they're not. Most of the time they're not, I should say. So those are the jig heads that I use, and the two different kinds of jigs that I use on a daily basis. Now I'm going to kind of go over, I've had a few people want to know the knots that I use. These, I'm going to show you the knot that I only use one knot. I use one knot for every application. And I'm going to kind of go over, I'm just going to go over the knot first, and I'm going to go over how to tie 2 jigs on a pole, on the line. So this is just the hair jig. It's just easier to do this versus the jig head. This is the jig. I'm just going to put the line through one time through the eye, just like that. And I'm going to run it through about that much. And I'm going to just pinch the line right here. And I'm going to grab, this is called a loop knot, by the way. I'm just going to grab the line, both lines like this, and hold it just like this. And I'm going to put these 2 fingers like this against the line. I'm going to pull this out a little more. And I'm going to wrap the line around my index finger and my middle finger, just like this. Wrap it around, and then it's going to make a loop. It's going to make a loop like that. I don't know if you can see that. It's going to make a loop. And what you want to do is just drop that jig back through that loop 3 times. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And then you want to grab the knot as close to the eye as you can, and you want to hold it down, and then you want to take the tag end and pull it down tight while simultaneously holding this end down here toward the eye. And you just keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, and then there it is. And that's the loop knot. And as you can see, the jig sits like this. It'll always, no matter how much you jig it, it'll always come back to that position. Now with a cinch down knot, like a Palomar or any other type of cinch down knot, the jig, if you miss a fish or you catch a fish, the jig is going to sit like this. And you have to constantly pull the knot back to the front to make the jig sit horizontal. That's unnecessary work. This right here keeps that jig horizontal at all times. You never have to mess with it. You miss a fish, it's still going to stay the same. If you catch a fish, it's still going to go back to being horizontal. And that is why I use this, because a horizontal bait is going to look a lot more natural to the fish than a jig that's like this. This looks a lot more natural than this. So that's why I use this knot. It's strong. I never have issues with it breaking. It's just an all-around good knot. So that's the knot I use. So now I'm going to show you how to tie 2 jigs on one line, a double jig rig. Okay, I'm going to let a little bit more line out. Okay. I'm going to do the same. This is the same thing that I just showed you. This is the same knot. So I just put the line through there one time like this and bring it back through. But only this time I bring more line up because I'm going to have to tie another jig down here on the bottom. So I do the same thing. Just get these 2 fingers like this and wrap the line around like that, and then I just drop the jig back through that loop 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then just cinch it down just like I just did. And then that's the first jig, and it's also will stay horizontal perfectly all the time in the water. And then I just grab another jig and do the same thing. Same exact thing. Here's another jig. One's got line on it. I should have cut all these off. Here's another one. So I just simply grab this jig and do the same thing. But this time I just want to make sure I want no more than 18 inches and no less than like 8 inches. Anywhere in between that is good enough. Anywhere in between that length, and just do the same thing. Just loop it around like that. 1, 2, 3. Cinch it down, and then cut the tag end off. And that's it. And that puts you 2 jigs on your line, and they both will sit horizontal in the water. And like I said, you can jig this, do whatever you want, and those 2 jigs will always sit like this. Makes it so much easier just to fish and not have to worry about knots and all that stuff. So that's how I tie double jigs on. That's what kind of knot I use, as well as all the equipment that I use when I fish. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Like I said, this was just kind of a crappie basics, I guess you can say. Just the simple, the shortcut to the simple stuff that you need to get started catching crappie. And this is really, really all you need. And I'm going to go through, in later videos, I'm going to kind of go through and show everyone what they do for each season, and break all that down as well. But hope you all enjoyed the video, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Have a lot more videos coming out shortly. I'm going to be starting up some projects, and hope to have a lot more videos coming up with a lot of different stuff instead of just me fishing the marina all the time. So stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Later.